That was a wonderful night. Well, September the 10th, the next day, just like any other morning, at that time I was the road manager for Montgomery County. I tell everybody I had 500 miles of road and 1,000 miles of ditches because there's one on each side. That's what I had to do every day. And so the next morning, just like any other morning, I'd get up from 5:30 to 6. I would read my Bible, and I had a little prayer time at the end of it. And then by 6, get dressed, be at work by 7. I got like 20 employees at that time, and I sent them all out to do different things. And I took a little small crew with me, and we're going to go patch potholes. Now, not big, not little potholes like you patch with a shovel, but big potholes where like the log trucks or something had tore up a big spot or warped the road or something. So that's what we're going to fix. I had a pretty good system. We would bring in these trailer truck loads of this hot mix asphalt, and if y'all hadn't had any experience with it personally, they call it hot mix asphalt because it's hot. It's about 320 degrees or so, and I tell people you can put your cobbler in the oven at 320, and you can imagine if you pull the cobbler out at 320 and you put your hands down in it, that's as old country boy says, spit won't stay on it. It just sizzles on top. It won't never touch it. But so this load of hot mix come in. It's about 1 o'clock. And we had a pretty good system. What I would do was I would dump a little bit of it out where I needed it, and I would take a rubber-tired backhoe and smooth it to where it fit the road good. And then I had an old steel wheel roller, and he would finish it and compact it. And then we'd just jump another mile or two and do another, and a mile or two and do another one. Well, that steel wheel roller, 5 mile an hour is wide open on it, and we would get so far. We'd be 30, 40 minutes ahead of it, seemed like all the time. And we just had to stop and let this old steel wheel roller catch up with us. Then we'd do 2 or 3 more. Well, about 1 o'clock, this fresh load of this hot mix come in. I showed the truck driver where to stop. And the idea on this one is I took my backhoe that I was on and I curled the front bucket. And I wanted half of it to fall on the ground, and I wanted to catch the other half in my bucket. So I centered his right-hand tire. I wasn't directly behind him. I got to one side and centered his right-hand tire with my front bucket. Well, he can't see me. So I step off the machine, I get over at the corner of the truck, and I'm telling him to raise this trailer truck up. And a lot of times as a trailer truck raises up, the back wheels will roll forward. Well, I'd handle that. I'd just leave my backhoe in gear, forward, first gear, idling, pushing on that tire, and then if the truck rolled forward, it would just go with the truck. And so I'd tell him, well, it dumped too much out. It dumped it all on one side, and it filled the bucket up on the half it, and then it piled some more up in front, and I'd get him let down. And normally what always happens is he moves he just gets out of the way. I get back on the backhoe, and he gets out of the way, and I do what I want to do. But this time was a little different. I walked to the cab of the truck, and I got up there, and he done let the bed down. I told him, you go on such and such, and I'll do this, and I'll be on shortly, and I back up off the shoulder, and he just pulls away. I walk back there to where my machine is at, and because I've left it in gear, and now the truck is gone, it has crawled up into this pile of this hot mix, and it's trying to go through it. And I get back here and I go, this is dangerous. You wouldn't want to mess this up. And that's my last conscious thought. They say if you go through a car wreck or something real traumatic, sometimes you have a mental block. Your brain won't let you go there. And I don't know what happened next. Probably tripped over my own 2 feet, but I have no clue. My next conscious thought is I'm laying in this hot mix parallel with my backhoe, and I have caught myself with my hands, and the front tire of that machine is just barely missing my hand and my head on this side, and I think, how in the world did I get here? Well, your natural reaction is just to tumble out of it. It's scalding hot. Well, I don't know whether my leg was under it or I put it on it, but just as I went to roll out of the way, my right leg, the back tire caught my boot, my foot. Now I can't get my leg out from under it. And so it's done got bad showing up. Went from bad to worse in a hurry. So I look up and that truck has gone down the road just a little ways, and it's starting to go behind a curve, behind some trees. And I think, well, maybe he can see me. But now he wasn't supposed to see me, but maybe he can. So the only thing I could come up with is I I put my belly down in it, and it's scalding, and I raised up my hands, and I shouted and screamed and cried like a little schoolgirl and waved, and that truck just faded on around the curve. It was gone. Then I thought about that steel wheel roller, but now it's always 30, 40 minutes behind. I'll be cooked through and through before it gets here. So he's no help. So I'm there, and I go, well, Jimmy, you ain't dead yet. You ain't dead yet. Just let it run over you, and when it runs off of you, you can get out of this stuff. So I'm just waiting as it's barely creeping up my leg, and as it come by my calf muscle, I remember going, whoa, I just didn't know it was going to hurt that bad. Well, what I found out later when they got me at the hospital and cut my pants off of me is the cleat on the rubber tire of that backhoe, when it come by my calf muscle, it caught the muscle, but it missed the bone, and it just peeled the calf muscle off the bone and pushed it down into that hot mix. So it come on up, and I tell people, if I could have moved 14,000 pounds, I'd have moved 14,000 pounds. You just can't. There's nothing you could do. And it come on up my leg, and I thought it was going to run off about my knee, but it didn't. It just stayed right on top of my leg, and it come on up about halfway between my leg and my hip, right in the middle of my thigh. It just stopped. And now it's just idling, and it's trying to go up that hill, and it's going through that soft asphalt, and it's just idling, and it's sitting there shaking. It ain't going to move now. And I try to push and pull. Well, look, I'm there by myself. It's over with. You can read the writing on the wall. I'm on die. Look, if you had a crisis, you can think a lot of thoughts. Well, I'm going to tell you a few of my thoughts that went through my head. I thought about my wife and kids. There just ain't nothing I can do. I thought, well, this is how Jimmy Gant, this is going to be in the news. Jimmy Gant died right here with this backhoe. This is how I'm going to die. And then maybe a self-righteous thought that I had, ain't no need lying about it, is I began to tell God, surely, God, you ain't letting this happen to me. Do you know, God, what all I do for you? Surely this happens to other people. You're not going to let this happen to me. And I began telling God what all I did for him. God, you know I'm active at the prison ministry at Baden. I'm active at Parchment at the state penitentiary every month with the Kairos ministry. I'm active at the MS Walk. I'm active in my church. I've been to New Orleans and witnessed folks on the street. God, surely you're not letting this happen to somebody like me. But it was happening to me, and we just have to figure all that out deal later. But so I'm dying, and I'm clawing, and I'm pulling, and I'm pushing, and I'm telling God now, I'm telling him, God, I'm in hell now, but I'll be with you in a minute in paradise, Father. And I'd claw and pull and push. I'm in hell now, God, but I'll be with you in a minute in paradise, Father. And then a little thought went through my head, said, maybe you in hell, maybe you going to hell. And I said, whoa. We just got to stop a minute now. We got to get this right. We got to get this right. And I said, no. My Savior, I'm dying, I'm scalding to death in a terrible, tragic accident. But my Savior, Jesus Christ, is going to save me. I'll be with you in a few minutes in paradise, Father. And look, we all live every day like we're in control, but we know we're not. We don't know that all of us is going to make it home tonight. Who knows what kind of doctor report you'll get next week? And by the end of the year, who's telling? Now, you might live till you're an old man and you're laying in the bed with your grandkids around you, but the day is going to come that you're going to meet your Maker. You're taking them last few breaths. You know what's going to matter when you get to that point in your life? And it's coming. Those last few breaths is coming. You know what's going to matter when you get to that point? I can tell you what ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter what kind of pickup you're driving. It ain't going to matter what kind of house you live in, or how much money you got in the bank, and who your friends are. All that ain't going to matter. It's just rubbish. It don't matter none. All that's going to matter is your relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what you got to get right. Most important decision you'll ever make in your life, you got to get that right. And if we don't have that right tonight, let's get with somebody and let's get it right. The most important for all eternity decision you'll ever make. And one of the few things you can take to heaven with you is your co-workers, your family members, your loved ones, and your friends. Well, you can take them to heaven with you. And if they don't have that decision right, you need to help them get it right. Now, you can't beat them over the head with the Bible, and they're hard to witness to, but you can live it out in front of them, and you can pray for them, and you can encourage them and tell them how important that all-eternity decision is. Get right with Jesus. But I had that right, and I continued to call out on God. And I tell you, I call out to Him because in the Bible, it ain't in the Bible, but I was told years ago that most of the Bible prayers in the Bible are said out loud. I don't know. I know in the Bible it says to confess with your tongue, and I know in the Bible it says that if a man is in a bad spot, it's right to call on the Lord. But I have trained myself, even during my little prayer time in the morning, anytime I pray, if it's appropriate, and I don't stand out there like the Pharisees and pray and show everybody how religious you are, or whether it's inappropriate, but as if it's appropriate, you want to do some real business with God, you get in your secret closet and you pray out loud to God. You have to think about what you're saying, and as you hear yourself saying it and thinking it audibly, God can hear those prayers and maybe speak to you better. And then you remember what you said to God, and you can give Him the glory when He answers those prayers. I'm just telling you, you want to do some real business, talk out loud to your Father.